They called me underperforming right before firing me from my $3.8 billion deal. Then at 2 a.m., they begged me to fix what I built. Now I'm making them pay. Literally. Hit subscribe and like if you've ever been undervalued at work. You won't believe what happened when they realized they couldn't replace me. When I started at Stellar Tech Dynamics 4 years ago, I had no idea I was building my own golden handcuffs. Fresh out of my MBA with a background in software engineering, I was exactly what they wanted. Someone who could translate between the tech team and the business side. My name is Natalie Reed, and this is how I went from being called underperforming to becoming their most desperate phone call. The office was everything you'd expect from a rising financial technology firm in Boston. Glass walls, ergonomic chairs, and the constant hum of ambition. My role started simple enough. Implement a new client management system for their growing portfolio of institutional investors. What they didn't tell me was that their existing system was a patchwork of Excel spreadsheets, ancient databases, and sticky notes. "We need something more robust," my boss, Daniel Whitman, said during my first week. "Something that can scale with us as we take on bigger clients." I nodded, not realizing I was agreeing to basically build an entire proprietary system from scratch. But that's what I did. For 18 months, I lived and breathed code, client requirements, and integration protocols. I skipped holidays, worked weekends, and postponed my social life. The result was Atlas, Advanced Transaction Logging and Analytics System. It wasn't just a CRM, it was a comprehensive platform that tracked every client interaction, predicted investment patterns, and streamlined compliance reporting. The higher-ups were impressed, so impressed that they quickly made it the backbone of all client operations. By the 2-year mark, I was promoted to Director of Technical Solutions, with a team of 5 developers under me. Atlas had become my baby, and I knew every line of code, every workaround, every secret backdoor I'd built to fix urgent problems at 3 a.m. I remember the day I first showed the completed system to the board. 7 middle-aged men in expensive suits, skeptical of anything they didn't understand, and they definitely didn't understand technology. I walked in wearing my most professional outfit, a charcoal gray pantsuit that cost me a month's rent, determined to make them see the value. "Gentlemen," I said, standing tall despite being the only woman in the room, "this is going to transform how we do business." For the next hour, I demonstrated how Atlas could process transactions in seconds that used to take days, how it could generate compliance reports automatically instead of requiring 3 full-time staff members, how it could predict which clients might be considering moving their investments elsewhere based on their interaction patterns. By the end, even Harold Fletcher, the 70-year-old chairman who still used his secretary to print his emails, was nodding along. "Impressive work, Ms. Reed," he said, actually making eye contact for the first time. "This could give us a significant edge in the institutional market." That's when everything started to change. Suddenly, I wasn't just the tech person they tolerated. I was the architect of their competitive advantage. Atlas became the centerpiece of every client pitch, every quarterly report, every strategy meeting. My team expanded from 5 to 12 developers, all focused on refining and expanding the system's capabilities. Then the Hudson Group approached Stellar Tech about a potential acquisition. This wasn't just any deal. It was worth $3.8 billion. Suddenly, our boutique firm was on the verge of becoming a major player. And guess who was central to those discussions? The woman who built the system that managed their most valuable asset, client relationships. The next 6 months were a blur of presentations, meetings, and due diligence reviews. I was pulled into every technical discussion, explaining how Atlas could scale, how it secured sensitive financial data, how it could be integrated with Hudson's existing infrastructure. I even flew to their headquarters in Chicago 3 times to meet with their technical team. "Your system is unlike anything we've seen in firms your size," said Marcus Zhang, Hudson's chief information officer, during my second visit. "Most boutique firms use off-the-shelf solutions. This gives you a real edge." I beamed with pride. "We built it to grow with us. It can handle 20 times our current transaction volume without any performance degradation." Marcus raised an eyebrow, impressed. That kind of scalability is exactly what makes your firm valuable to us. Back in Boston, I shared this feedback with Daniel and the executive team, expecting them to be thrilled. Most of them were, except for Richard Pearson, our CFO, who seemed oddly uncomfortable with my growing prominence. Yes, well, let's not overstate the importance of one system, he said dismissively. Hudson is interested in our client portfolio and market position, not just a piece of software. I bit my tongue, but the truth was that our market position was largely due to Atlas enabling us to serve clients more efficiently than our competitors. Our client retention rate had jumped from 78% to 94% since implementing the system. But I knew better than to correct a C-suite executive in front of his peers. Everything seemed to be going well until Jennifer Crane joined the executive team as our new COO. We need to streamline operations before this acquisition closes, she announced in her first company-wide meeting. Her eyes scanned the room and landed on me. Some departments have become bloated. I should have seen the warning signs. Jennifer started scheduling one-on-ones with me, questioning the resources allocated to maintaining Atlas. She'd come from a larger firm with off-the-shelf solutions and couldn't understand why we needed a custom system. We're spending too much on proprietary technology, she said during one particularly tense meeting. The Hudson Group has their own systems. Yours will likely be phased out anyway. Mine. Not the company's. Mine. As if I'd built it for my personal amusement and not as the backbone of our entire operation. Atlas is specifically designed for our workflow, I explained. It's one of the reasons Hudson is interested in us. Their technical team was particularly impressed with how it handles compliance reporting. She nodded with a tight smile that didn't reach her eyes. Nevertheless, we need to prepare for integration, and that means cutting unnecessary costs. The next week, I noticed my team wasn't being included in key meetings about the acquisition. Then my access to certain executive communications was revoked. Streamlining information channels, HR called it. Finally, Jennifer requested a comprehensive handover document for Atlas. Just as a precaution, she said, in case you're unavailable during a critical phase of the transition. I wasn't stupid. I knew what was happening, but I still didn't want to believe it. I had given 4 years of my life to this company. I had built their most valuable technical asset. Surely they wouldn't. The email came on a Friday afternoon, just as I was planning to leave for my first actual vacation in 2 years. A meeting request from HR for Monday morning. Subject, organizational restructuring discussion. That weekend was the longest of my life. I alternated between panic, anger, and disbelief. By Sunday night, I had decided to be professional regardless of what happened. I would take the high road. Monday morning arrived with Boston's typical early autumn crispness. I wore my best suit, navy blue with subtle pinstripes, and arrived 15 minutes early for the meeting. The HR director, Patricia, was already there, along with Jennifer and a company lawyer I'd only seen during contract negotiations. Natalie. Patricia began with that particular tone HR people use when they're about to ruin your life. As part of our preparation for the Hudson acquisition, we're making some difficult decisions about organizational structure. I sat perfectly still as she continued with corporate euphemisms for, "You're fired." Phrases like redundancy in technical leadership roles, realignment of skills with future needs, and my personal favorite, performance concerns relative to current company trajectory. Performance concerns? I finally interrupted. I've consistently exceeded every metric in my reviews. Jennifer leaned forward. The metrics have changed, Natalie. We need people who can see the bigger picture. Your focus has been too narrow, too focused on your system rather than overall business goals. My system is what's driving the business goals, I said, struggling to keep my voice level. It's what attracted Hudson in the first place. The lawyer cleared his throat. Regardless, the decision has been made. We're prepared to offer a generous severance package, provided you assist with a smooth transition. 3-month salary. That was their definition of generous after 4 years of building their crown jewel. I was to spend the next 2 weeks training Jennifer's nephew. Oh, they didn't call him that. but I had seen them together at the company holiday party on how to manage Atlas. I signed the papers. What choice did I have? I needed the severance while I looked for a new job, and fighting a wrongful termination suit against a company with Hudson Group's resources would be financial suicide. The transition period was excruciating. Dylan, Jennifer's 20-something relative with a freshly minted computer science degree, followed me around like an entitled shadow. He asked basic questions that showed he had no real understanding of enterprise-level systems, yet he constantly suggested improvements that would have crashed the entire platform. "So it's basically just a fancy database, right?" he asked on day 3. "I've been thinking we could probably just migrate everything to a standard cloud solution and save a ton of money." I smiled tightly. Atlas isn't just storing data. It's processing millions of transactions, generating regulatory reports, predicting market movements based on client behavior patterns, and maintaining an unbroken audit trail for compliance. But sure, let's put it all in the cloud and hope for the best. He didn't catch the sarcasm. Exactly. That's what I was thinking. During my final days, I watched as Dylan made increasingly concerning decisions. He disabled several critical security protocols because they were slowing down access. He modified the authentication requirements to make it easier for him to log in remotely. He even attempted to rewrite portions of the core processing engine to streamline it. Each time, I documented my objections in writing, sending emails to both Daniel and Jennifer explaining the potential risks. Each time, I was told to support the transition and not create unnecessary concerns. One afternoon, I found Dylan attempting to modify the master security protocols, the ones that protected our clients' most sensitive financial data. "What are you doing?" I asked, trying to keep my voice neutral. "These security checks are redundant," he said confidently. "They're creating bottlenecks in the system. I'm optimizing them." "Those aren't redundant," I explained. "They're layered security measures required by federal regulations. If you remove them, we'll be in violation of at least 3 different compliance standards." He rolled his eyes. "That's just regulatory paranoia. No one's actually going to check." I sent another email, this one marked urgent, explaining what I'd witnessed. The response from Jennifer was brief. "Dylan has been authorized to make necessary adjustments to improve system performance." I did what was required and nothing more. I documented the standard operations, the scheduled maintenance procedures, and the basic troubleshooting steps. What I didn't document were the custom shortcuts I'd built, the special commands that could quickly resolve critical issues, or the master password that could override the automatic lockdowns that occurred when the system detected potential security breaches. Those weren't deliberate omissions, I told myself. Those were advanced features that Dylan clearly wasn't ready for. I would have taught a qualified replacement those things, but teaching them to Dylan would be like giving a toddler the nuclear codes. My last day was mercifully quick. I handed in my badge, my laptop, and signed the final paperwork. Daniel, my original boss, stopped by to awkwardly wish me well but avoided eye contact. Only my team seemed genuinely sorry to see me go, but they were also terrified for their own jobs, so goodbyes were brief. "You're making a mistake," my lead developer Aisha whispered as she hugged me goodbye. "This place will fall apart without you." I smiled sadly. Then they'll learn the hard way. I walked out of the building feeling strangely light. 4 years of stress and dedication ended with a cardboard box of desk plants and coffee mugs. I took myself out for an expensive lunch, ordered a bottle of wine, and made a toast to my next chapter. For 3 weeks, I enjoyed my unexpected sabbatical. I updated my resume, reached out to contacts in the industry, and actually used my gym membership for once. The severance would cover my expenses for a while, and I was confident my skills would be in demand. I even had a promising interview with Vertex Financial, a competitor who had been trying to recruit me for years. Their CTO, Rebecca Winters, didn't hide her excitement at my sudden availability. "We've been watching your work from afar," she said over lunch. "Building a system like Atlas with the resources you had is nothing short of remarkable. We'd love to have you lead our digital transformation initiative." It felt good to be valued again. We discussed salary expectations, team structure, and project timelines. By the end of the meal, I was tentatively optimistic about a fresh start. Rebecca promised to send over a formal offer within the week. Then my phone rang at 2:17 a.m. on a Tuesday. The number was blocked, but I answered anyway, thinking it might be an international recruiter I'd been speaking with. "Natalie, it's Daniel. I need your help." His voice was tight with panic. In the background, I could hear multiple people talking urgently. "Daniel? It's the middle of the night. What's going on?" "Atlas is down, completely frozen. We have the Hudson technical team here for final integration testing, and everything just stopped responding. Dylan's tried everything, but the system's locked itself down and won't accept any commands." I sat up in bed, suddenly wide awake. That sounds like the security protocol. It automatically locks if it detects multiple unauthorized access attempts. Yes, that's what Dylan said too, after he tried forcing his way into the admin controls. But he doesn't know how to reset it, and we have less than 8 hours before the markets open. If we can't process the overnight transactions by then, the compliance reports won't generate, the trading algorithms won't update, and you'll be in violation of about 15 different regulations. I finished for him. Not to mention your clients won't be able to access their accounts. There was a pause. "Can you help us?" I laughed. I couldn't help it. "Let me get this straight. You fired me for performance issues, replaced me with an unqualified nepotism hire, and now you want me to bail you out in the middle of the night? Natalie, please. This isn't about what happened before. This is serious. The entire acquisition could fall through if we can't resolve this. Thousands of jobs are at stake." I considered hanging up. They had made their choice, and now they were facing the consequences. But then I thought about my team, the developers who had worked alongside me, who still had their jobs, at least for now. My consulting rate is $500 an hour, with a minimum of 8 hours, paid up front to my account. I'll text you the details. "Natalie, those are my terms, Daniel. Take it or leave it." There was muffled conversation on his end. Then, "Fine. The money will be in your account within the hour. Can you come in now?" "I'll be there in 45 minutes. I took my time getting ready. Shower, professional outfit, even full makeup. If I was going to save their acquisition, I wanted to look damn good doing it. The office was in chaos when I arrived. The lights were all on, and people who should have been home in bed were hunched over computers or pacing anxiously. Jennifer was there, her perfect blonde hair now frazzled, barking orders at anyone who came near. She froze when she saw me. "What is she doing here?" she demanded as Daniel walked me in. "Saving your acquisition," I replied calmly. "Where's Dylan? I need to see exactly what happened." Dylan looked like he hadn't slept in days. His expensive shirt was wrinkled, and there was a wild look in his eyes. "I was just trying to implement some efficiency upgrades," he stammered. "Then it asked for authorizations I don't have, and when I tried to override them, you triggered the security lockdown," I finished. "Show me." The main screen displayed exactly what I expected. Atlas had detected multiple unauthorized access attempts and had sealed itself off completely. No data could go in or out until the system was properly reset. "Can you fix it?" Jennifer asked, her earlier hostility replaced by desperate hope. "Yes," I said. "But first I want something in writing." "What do you mean?" Daniel asked. "I want a formal consulting agreement. 1 year at my hourly rate for any issues related to Atlas. And I want it signed before I type a single command." Jennifer started to object, but Daniel cut her off. "Draw up the paperwork, now." As we waited for the legal team to prepare the documents, I took a quick tour of the system logs. What I saw made my blood boil. In the 3 weeks since I'd left, Dylan had systematically dismantled almost every safety protocol I'd put in place. He'd disabled critical security features, modified core algorithms without proper testing, and attempted to access restricted areas of the system multiple times. "You've been busy," I said to Dylan, scrolling through the logs. "Disabling the multi-factor authentication for administrator access, removing the audit trails for client data access. What were you thinking?" He had the decency to look embarrassed. Those were just temporary changes to speed things up during development. There is no temporary when it comes to financial data security, I replied. Every single one of these changes violates regulatory requirements. Jennifer cleared her throat. The paperwork is ready, Natalie. Can we focus on fixing the problem? An hour and several hastily signed documents later, I was ready to begin. The room fell silent as I sat at the main terminal. Everyone step back, please. I need space. They retreated, watching anxiously as I began typing. I could have fixed the issue in minutes, but I took my time, methodically working through the system as if the solution was complex and difficult. Let them sweat a little. As I worked, I could see exactly what had happened. Dylan had attempted to bypass the core security module to implement his efficiency improvements. When the system detected this unauthorized access, it initiated a complete lockdown, exactly as it was designed to do. The only way to reverse it was with the master override code that only I knew. Finally, after about 45 minutes of deliberate work, I entered the master override code, a combination of my birth date and the name of my first cat, something no one could have guessed, and the system unlocked. The screens returned to normal, showing that all data was intact and processing had resumed. A collective sigh of relief filled the room. Daniel clapped me on the shoulder. You did it. Thank you. Jennifer approached cautiously. Yes, thank you, Natalie. This was invaluable assistance. I stood up and gathered my things. The system will need a full diagnostic check tomorrow, but it should hold until then. I'll be available for consultation as per our new agreement. I turned to Dylan. And for future reference, the system has 3 layers of security protocols. You managed to trigger all of them simultaneously, which is actually impressive in its own way. He didn't meet my eyes. As I walked toward the elevator, I heard quick footsteps behind me. It was one of the Hudson executives, a woman I'd met during the due diligence meetings. Ms. Reed, she called. A moment, please. I stopped and turned. Yes? She extended her hand. That was impressive work. I'm Elizabeth Harding, CTO at Hudson. I wasn't aware you were no longer with Stellar Tech. Recent development, I said, shaking her hand. I see. She handed me her card. When you have some free time, I'd like to discuss a position with us. We value people who build systems that can withstand even the most enthusiastic newcomers. I smiled, pocketing her card. I'd like that. And just so you know, she added, lowering her voice, we've been watching this situation unfold with great interest. The way a company treats its key technical talent says a lot about its culture. It's information that's quite valuable during an acquisition. As I left the building for the second time that month, the sun was just beginning to rise over Boston Harbor. My phone buzzed with a notification. The consulting fee had been deposited in my account. Another notification followed. An email from Rebecca at Vertex Financial with a formal job offer, even more generous than we'd discussed. I had options now. I could join Vertex and help build something new from the ground up. I could explore the opportunity with Hudson, potentially overseeing the very system I'd created, but with better resources and respect. Or I could simply continue as a highly paid consultant to Stellar Tech, watching them squirm every time they needed my help. That afternoon, I received another call from Daniel. I owe you an apology, he said, sounding genuinely remorseful. I should have fought harder to keep you. Jennifer convinced the board that we could save money by restructuring the technical team, and I didn't push back enough. And now? I asked. Now the board sees exactly what you're worth. Hudson made it clear that your system is a major part of what they're paying for, and they're not happy about how things were handled. Jennifer's been asked to step back from the acquisition process. I couldn't help but feel a small surge of satisfaction. That's not my problem anymore, Daniel. I know, he sighed. But I was hoping. Would you consider coming back? Not just as a consultant, but in a proper executive role. CTO, with a seat on the board. We need you, Natalie. I thought about it for a moment. Going back would be the easy choice. I already knew the system, the company, the clients. But it would also mean working with people who had undervalued me once and might do so again. I appreciate the offer, I said finally. But I think it's time for me to explore new opportunities. You'll have my consulting support as agreed, but that's all. They had fired me for supposedly underperforming on the biggest deal in company history, then begged me to fix the mess they'd created. Now I had a consulting contract that would pay my bills, multiple job offers that recognized my true value, and the satisfaction of knowing that they finally understood exactly what I was worth. Sometimes, I thought as I scheduled meetings with both Vertex and Hudson for the following week, the best revenge isn't walking away, it's making them pay to bring you back. And in my case, quite literally.